Hey guys, I'm Marisa Rothman at Marisa Rothman,
Danielle at Danielle TBD.
and this is our Vodcast, We Have Thoughts. And today we're actually here to kind of follow up on our pre-fall thoughts. Because, I mean, to be fair, some of them actually aired a little bit, but we had some thoughts about the good comedies and the good dramas and the not-so-good stuff. And, you know, we're a couple months into the season, so we figured we'd follow up and see how these shows are doing, both in the ratings and in the quality. So we've got some thoughts to share right now.
Should we start with comedy or should we start with drama?
Let's start with comedies.
Okay. Because
happy shows.
I was going to say, I remember when we talked about the comedy pilots that we were enjoying and that we had high hopes for, one of the ones you were most excited about was Ben and Kate.
Yeah.
And at that point, we had only seen the pilot, even though we did it a little later in the season than usual. So how are you feeling about where they're at now in the season versus where you may have thought they were going to go?
I'm still so happy with the show. I watch the show and I just get like warm feelings in my heart. And I tweeted the other day, when I was doing like a mini marathon of the show, and it makes me miss my brother, which I think is like the best thing possible because it's a show about family relationships, about this relationship with his brother and sister. And if it's making me, miss my brother and miss our own crazy relationship, that's a good thing. I mean, that's pretty much getting a good result, and I think it's funny, and I think, I wasn't really worried, but you never know with comedies. Comedies can be so hit or miss. It's kind of easy, not easy because God knows I couldn't do it, but I imagine if you're good at doing comedy, you could be understandable as how you can make one good comedy episode. We've seen even terrible comedy shows have a really good episode here and there. So, producing a funny pilot is not always indicative of how a series will go. But there really hasn't been an episode that I've been like, oh my God, what is this show? What is this? There's always been some kind of redeeming moment. I mean, I don't even need a redeeming moment, but there's always been enjoyable aspects of every episode of the show, and I laugh, I feel. It's a good time, guys. I wish more of you were watching because you guys make me sad because no one's watching Tuesday nights on Fox right now, but I am pleasantly surprised and happy with where it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, obviously my biggest, I wouldn't even say my biggest complaint, but my biggest piece of commentary about the pilot was that I felt like they were a couple and not a brother and sister, and I will say that pretty much as of episode 2, that went out the window.
Yay.
And it was exactly what I wanted. They kind of addressed it in the show and then moved on. And I appreciated that. And, that was probably what I got the most comments about on Twitter. Written review or our podcast or not, was just the fact that people agreeing or disagreeing. And, so the fact that I don't feel that way makes me enjoy watching the show a lot more because I was a little uncomfortable, and I didn't really laugh in the pilot, and I do find that I laugh more now. I think it was just a different sense of humor than I was expecting, and so when I started to adapt for what she was actually giving us versus what I maybe thought she was going to give us, I found it definitely more enjoyable and definitely funnier. And I could watch just a half hour of Lucy Punch and Maggie Elizabeth Jones. Like
Maggie Elizabeth Jones is amazing.
Yes,
her face.
They're just great together or separately, and I love that they're using them because I will say that a lot of the comedies, new or otherwise, kids, peripheral characters, friends outside of the family, however you want to call them, they're just kind of there. They're not really doing anything, but already we've seen like these little moments of really quirkiness from Lucy, but also like growth. Like she actually got emotional in a recent episode, and I was like, so I appreciate that as well, because that's my biggest thing is with comedies. I don't want to just find humor in a situation. I want to care about the characters, and I do care about these characters. I still find Ben a little like over the top for me, but I think that's kind of the point. And I will say that like one of the things that I really, really appreciate about it, and maybe I'm reading into this more than other people simply because Community's not on the air right now, but I find sensibilities in Ben and Kate that are in Community. It's not the same show by any means, but there are little things, little bits of humor and little character quirks that I see in Community, and I don't think it's intentional, and I don't think it's like an homage, but it makes me, because I miss Community so much, it makes me endear myself to the show more, just because I'm like, well, you're kind of giving me that, and when Community comes back, I'm still going to want to watch this show because you've kind of like filled part of that void. So I definitely am really, I don't know if I'm surprised, but I'm impressed with where they've gone, and I'm glad with where they've gone.
Yeah, I mean, I will say and I've also been really impressed with the guest stars they've brought in. Forget even the talent, the names that they've been able to draw in their first season. I also feel like the guest stars have worked really well with the cast. I think Jeff Stoltz is a great addition because, I think he's a really fun actor, and he fits in well with the chemistry with the entire group.
And that I just like that they brought him on because that answered my incesty issue. So, and I mean, like, he's a good-looking guy. It always helps to have a good-looking guy on your show, but like, it also answered my main issue at the end of the pilot, which you cut out the romantic options for either of them, and they were left with each other. And I was like, don't go there. Right. So yeah, I'm excited to see the rest of the season and what they do.